Welcome to Folta Family Memories by Ruth Folta and her daughter Martha Stewart. Martha Folta Stewart. So I'm going to ask you some questions.
Okay.
All right? And we're going to see what memories we can conjure up. And so there's been a lot of changes in 94 years on this earth. So, first of all, what are just some of the amazing changes that you've seen?
Well, just this technology, for one thing.
Yeah?
Beginning there, going back to the beginning, where we had nothing but we had telephones.
You did?
We did have telephones.
Was it the old kind?
Well, going back to my birth, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it was on the wall, the telephone?
No, it was a daffodil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you hold it.
You held
it was on the table.
It was on the table with
Okay.
a speaker, and then you took the other piece and put it to your ear, I guess.
Yeah. How do you ring someone? Do you dial?
Well, there's a dial down here, and you had to dial the numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's changed. Yeah.
Slightly.
And did you have any cars back then?
Cars?
Yeah.
Well, no, we didn't own a car. My daddy worked every day for his father in the store. He walked to work. We walked to church. We walked to school across town. Mm-hmm. If we wanted to go anywhere, we had to borrow a car.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Grandpa's car.
Oh, Grandpa had a car.
Mm-hmm. And the hardware store had a gas pump on the sidewalk there, right by the road. And you could fill your tank right at the store. Mm-hmm. We didn't have to go to a gas station.
Was that your grandpa's hardware, your dad's hardware store?
It was my grandfather's hardware store.
Oh, he had a hardware store too.
That was the same hardware store. Daddy worked in his father's hardware store.
Was it always called Milford Hardware?
No, it was Hume's Hardware.
Hume's Hardware in Milford, Delaware. Mm-hmm. And then Harry Humes, your brother, did he take it over?
No, my Uncle Jim inherited most of it. I think Daddy inherited his part. Mm-hmm. And Harry went to work for another company, a lumber company in town.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Maston Hardware.
Yes.
Because he married a Maston girl. Aunt Carolyn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So you were born in Milford, grew up in Milford, and what was the year you were born?
1929.
Wow. What was happening in the world?
Well, it was, it was less than 30 years from the 1800s.
So what does that mean?
That means that we were just barely into the 1900s.
Yeah, so
and here we're in the 20s already.
But what did it look like?
It was a beautiful little quiet, sleepy town with sidewalks that you could skate on.
Oh.
And, our house was on a street that cars would go by, and the ice truck would come by.
209
South
Walnut Street.
You knew.
Yeah. That was my grandma's house, your mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the milkman would deliver milk.
Okay.
And the groceries would be delivered to the door as well.
That's coming back.
Yeah, that's right.
Did you get milk in a little glass bottles?
Yeah.
Like in England?
One quart at a time.
Oh, just one?
One quart.
In England, they had like 6 little glass bottles of milk they'd bring to your door.
Oh, no, one at a time.
Oh.
Yeah. And they just set it on the doorstep.
Oh.
And in the winter, it was cold, it would freeze before you bring it in. If you didn't bring it in, the cream, it was not homogenized.
Yeah.
You know what homogenized is?
Purified?
Probably don't, because everything's homogenized now. This cream would be separate from the bottom.
Oh.
And so the cream would freeze and lift the label off the top, so you'd have a little top of milk sticking out the top of the bottle.
Did you put the cream in your coffee?
Or no, we mixed it in. Well, I don't know. Some people could have used the cream, because then you had, if you wanted cream, you used just the cream, and you took a egg beater and you could beat it.
Whipped cream.
Mm-hmm.
You were born in 1929. And were you born in a hospital?
It was a kind of a hospital, I guess. It was the upstairs of the doctor's office building.
Like a house?
Like it was a house. Yeah. It's turned into a restaurant now.
Yeah, because you took your daughters and daughter-in-laws out for it's a tea house now.
It's a tea house.
It's an old house in Milford. Mm-hmm. And we went and had tea, and we could try on all these hats and have tea. That was fun. And you were born in that house.
Mm-hmm. By Dr. Marshall.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And you were baptized at the church there by who?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. And your parents went to that church. What was the name of that church?
The Milford First Presbyterian Church, probably.
Okay. But the same one that Johnny and Marcy got married there.
Right.
And they had their funeral there for both of them. Mm-hmm. You're both parents? Yeah.
And I got married there.
You got married there. Yeah. And then you had a reception in your backyard. We have some pictures of that. Mm-hmm. And so some of your earliest memories, you told me once that you pulled up your dress. Tell me about that. How old were you?
Oh, isn't it funny what the stories that they tell you about you when you're little?
Yeah?
Well, let me think if I can think of one about you. I can think of one about Nancy.
I know, but you...
About me, I guess we all had to stand up on the stage and say a piece.
Okay, how old were you?
3.
3, okay.
I'm not sure. The story
3.
was
Probably
told
3.
so long.
Yeah.
And I guess I wasn't quite ready to say my piece.
Yeah.
So I asked everybody to wait just a minute while I scratched my tummy, and I could.
Then you held up, the way I heard it, you held up your dress and scratched your tummy, and then you said your piece, and everybody thought it was so cute.
I thought it was cute.
But do you have some other interesting early memories of like Uncle Harry and Aunt Claire, your brother and sister? You were the oldest.
Right.
Of 3 kids.
Yeah. Harry was 3.5 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember too many things about growing up. I remember, and then Claire wasn't born until I was in the 4th grade.
How old?
We were 10 years apart.
10 years. Mm.
But I remember my daddy and my mother more than my brother and sister.
Okay.
Yeah, my daddy was always so very wonderful to me, and mother was too. I can't tell you any special stories about them, I don't think.
I remember some things you told me. They would say, could somebody answer the door?
That's true. And we had nicknames.
But tell me about the somebody. Or are you about to say that?
I don't know.
Yeah, they would say, could somebody do such and such?
And that meant, I thought it meant me.
Yeah, you thought your name was somebody. When they said, could somebody answer the phone or answer the door? That was you. You told me that.
I can't remember what all the nicknames were either anymore. I know Harry was, I think I was Sloppy Joe.
Oh.
Somebody was Sloppy Joe, somebody was Slowpoke. They weren't very nice names.
Sloppy Joe, Slowpoke, and somebody. And what was Claire?
I don't know.
Okay, well, did you have any boyfriends when you were little?
Well, the only boy I liked was my cousin, and that was Harold, and he knew it. I mean, he knows it now. He didn't know it then. I just thought he was wonderful, and now as I look at his pictures and my husband's pictures, it's as if I took that stereotype and married him.
Oh,
Because they're both Germanic.
Okay.
You know, rather large jaw was out here, and European.
Okay. So you were attracted to someone who looked like your cousin that you had a crush on, kind of. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Blonde.
So how did you meet Dad, and how old were you?
Oh my. I met Dad after I was already in graduate school. I mean, I was in nursing school. Mm-hmm. And I guess I was 22 or 23. We were married, I think I was 24.
Did you have any boyfriends in college?
Oh, yes. I had boyfriends in high school and college.
And high school. Okay. Did you ever count them? Count how many?
Count them?
Yeah.
Oh, probably 6 or 7.
I counted 9 that I had crushes on, but they didn't always like me. A few of them did, but Anyway, I've counted 9 for me. So maybe you had about 9.
I never counted them.
Yeah. Anyway, God protected you from the wrong one until you met Dad. And Where did you meet Dad?
I met him at Urbana Missionary Conference in Illinois at Christmas, 1951.
Okay. And
that was the InterVarsity Christian Fellowship gathering. It's still going on. And Peg Deschamps, my high school friend, introduced us. She went to college the same place that John went.
Oh, which was Worcester.
Worcester.
Yeah.
And so she knew that the two of us were both going, and she told us that she should look each other up.
How did you look him up?
I don't remember how he looked me up, or I think he looked me up, but I remember that we sat together in the big auditorium.
Yeah.
And sang together.
Yeah.
You know, it just sounded so good.
Did you immediately fall in love, or were you just curious?
Just curious, I guess.
Did you think, oh, he's cute?
No, I don't know. I liked him a lot. I remember going home and telling Mother and Daddy about the 2 guys that I met at that conference. You know.
2? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you had 2 choices.
Okay. No, I don't know. The other one just fell apart.
You met Dad at Urbana, Chicago, Illinois. near Chicago. And was it cold?
Oh, I don't remember. Christmas time. I know we went on a chartered train, a bunch of us from New York City.
Oh. Why from New York?
Straight from New York.
Why?
To Chicago.
Because your nursing school was there?
Yeah, because I was in school in New York City.
Was it nursing school? Okay.
And of course, he was at Princeton at that time. He'd finished college, and he was not far from New York City, Princeton, not far from New York. So we could have a courtship across the water there. He would come over and visit me on weekends.
On a ferry?
I don't know some kind of a ferry.
Must have. Wow. And how long did it take? An hour? About an hour?
I don't remember. He did most of the traveling.
Yeah.
I would travel downtown and meet him sometimes.
Downtown New York? Fun.
Yeah. We could go on I don't know how it is today, but you could go on the subway anywhere, anytime, no problem.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't dangerous, the
No.
subway?
I don't know if it is now.
But back then you didn't feel nervous? No. Okay. And you were in nursing school and you knew Betty Connect?
No. That Betty Connect was way before. That was college days.
Okay.
And Betty and her husband, Glenn, went to seminary, to the same seminary as John did. They were friends.
They went to Princeton. Yeah. And Connect was my connection for my marriage.
Exactly. Right.
So we like the connects. Okay. So, let's go back to Dad. The romance.
Romance.
Yeah, how did it start? Did he call you or write to you after Urbana?
I don't remember. Well, let me see. That was Christmas. Then by summer, we had already been either corresponding or seeing each other.
Oh.
In the summer, he went to Alaska.
Oh.
With other guys from Princeton. They drove all the way on the Alcan Highway, and he wrote me letters all the time.
Was it like a mission trip?
I forget what they did. They fought fires.
Oh, wow.
And yes, they worked with Bert Bingle. He was a minister that had churches over 100-mile parish scattered across Alaska. And I think they worked with him too. I can't remember the details of how that was.
His mother, my dad, your husband, his mother, Grandma Green, she became Grandma Green, she worked in Alaska.
Yeah.
Maybe that got Dad interested, your husband interested.
Oh, no, sweetie. She didn't work in Alaska until after she and her husband retired.
Oh, so later.
Much later.
Oh, okay.
No, the boys that went to Alaska, they just went on their own.
Oh, and then later his mom went when she retired.
Yes, they did. In fact, when we took the train to California on our way to Korea, they were on the same train on their way to Alaska.
Oh, my. Wow.
That was quite a memorable thing because we had been to Ruth and Doreen's wedding in Michigan.
Okay.
And from the wedding, we each went our separate ways on our new missions.
But how long did it take to take a train from the East Coast to California?
I don't remember how long it took, but I remember the car that we rode in had a dome on the top where you could see out.
Oh.
We probably have a picture of that.
Oh, it was like a glass ceiling on the train, so you could see the clouds, maybe a few mountains.
The mountains.
Oh, that must have taken a week by train, or at least 3 days or 4 days. Did you sleep on the train?
I guess so.
I guess so. And you were newlywed then, but so going back to you were dating.
No, we were having a baby.
I know, but let's go back.
We had you with us.
Oh, yeah.
We weren't newlywed.
Okay, yeah, you had a baby, but you were only wed for a year or so. So, going before that, how did he propose to you? So you were dating for how long? A year?
I don't know, but we were engaged for a year. And during that year, I made my wedding dress on the old treadle machine at the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And
I wore that same dress. And Nancy did.
That dress was passed down to both of you.
Yeah. Daffodil lace. Yeah.
Or embroidered organdy, white on white.
And little white buttons that had satin around them. On the
buttons
arms.
all down the sleeves.
And down here. Yeah, pretty dress. I loved it. Yeah.
And our neighbor at the beach,
Mrs. Miller.
What was her name?
Miller.
Lou Miller.
Yeah.
Was
Jewish.
in some kind of a business that sold buttons. And he gave me the buttons for the dress.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. That's nice. And that was at Dewey Beach.
So we were in Dewey Beach.
That you sewed the wedding dress.
We were engaged for a year. Mm-hmm. And, of course, he came back and forth from Princeton, and I visited Princeton every weekend. And he had his church assignments in New York City so that we could do things together on the weekends.
He was in seminary to be a pastor. He was in
seminary. And some of his practice work, one was downtown on Broome Street.
Okay.
Broome Street Tabernacle was a big church, looked like an office building. It didn't look much like a church, but it was right in the heart of Little Italy.
Oh.
And they had a ministry too. There was a minister assigned to the church, but Daddy would help him on weekends. And they had a ministry to the young people of the neighborhood.
Nice.
So we would take those kids on excursions and things on the weekends.
And you would help?
I would go with them. And they had never been outside of their Little Italy. A lot of them.
Were they?
Never been all over New York City.
Were they Spanish or just a mix of people?
Italian.
Little Italy. Yeah.
And so I remember one special trip we took them to Staten Island to see the Statue of Liberty.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. So did they go to that church or they just lived in the neighborhood?
I think they had an organization. They were supposed to go to a youth group.
Okay.
New York City was a wonderful place to be going together, being courted, you might say. Mm-hmm. After Broome Street, his next assignment was the opposite end of the city life. It was Park Avenue Presbyterian Church with the tinted windows and the paid choir and processional and everything was very high churchish.
Stained glass?
No. I think they were pink tinted somehow.
Okay.
And we would go early in the morning, have breakfast there, and eat with the Sunday school classes. And they hired me as a nurse for the nursery. Mm-hmm. And I wore my nurse's uniform. It was a student nurse uniform, but that was okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
So they paid you.
I don't think they paid me.
Okay.
I don't remember.
It was like, let me ask you, how did you and Dad realize you wanted to be missionaries to a foreign country? When did that happen?
Well, that happened before Urbana, long before Urbana. So we have to go back to high school.
Okay.
For that.
How did it start with you?
Well, in high school, we had the Presbyterian young people was called Westminster Fellowship, I think it was. And we would go to conferences in the presbytery and the synod. And the synod was bigger than the presbyteries. It was a group of presbyteries. Was in Washington, D.C. And it was there that I was challenged for missions. And it was through Ben Sheldon, who belonged to a church in Washington, D.C. He was a delegate like I was. I don't think he was a leader. Mm-hmm. And he asked me, we went on a fun trip on a Saturday. I can't remember where we went. I remember we went on some kind of a bus ride. And he asked me if I'd ever considered missions. And I laughed him in the face. And I said, how old-fashioned you are. I bet you spell music with a K.
Oh.
I was really mean to him.
Oh.
I liked him as a boy, and I don't know if he liked me or not, but I admired him a lot. I guess I don't know if he was already going to be a missionary or not.
But
he was aimed for seminary. Eventually, he went to seminary.
And you ended up in Korea. You were both missionaries in Korea.
Well, Ben went separately at a different time in a different organization.
Yeah, but I remember meeting them in Korea.
You did?
Yes, I remember them. Yeah.
Oh, and we stayed friends. He and your dad were roommates in seminary. Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. And we visited their church on furloughs. We stayed friends all our lives. I met his wife. Mm-hmm. And then your brothers and sisters went to college with their children. Wheaton. Not Wheaton.
Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. What's his son's name?
Rex.
Oh.
Rex was one of them. Okay. Paul and Rex were friends.
All right. Rex Sheldon. Okay, so you knew you wanted to be a missionary because you went to a conference for high school.
Yeah, I can't remember what happened after that.
Yeah. And then when did Dad realize he wants to be a missionary?
He was in seminary.
Right.
And he knew that I wanted to be a missionary, but he must have, I guess he went to the missionary convention where we met because he already had that planted in his heart.
To Urbana.
To Urbana.
Yeah, that's for people interested in missions.
Already interested in mission.
Yeah.
Whether they were felt called or not.
Yeah.
But his seminary friends included graduate students from Korea, older Korean ministers who were in Princeton taking courses.
Do we know any of them?
I didn't keep in touch with any of them, but he went to their prayer groups and he became interested in Korea through them.
All right.
And so where I was just thinking missions in general, he was thinking missions in Korea.
Okay. I wish we knew the names because we might know some of them. They would be older than you.
Well, they'd be older than us.
Yeah. But, so he was interested in Korea and you were interested in missions. Did you have a country in mind?
No, I did not.
Okay, so you were open. And so, did you talk about that when you corresponded, when you were dating? Talk about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, he found a good wife that would go to the mission field with him.
Well, I found a good husband.
You were telling us about your trip to Korea, starting with Delaware. What did you have to do to get to Korea in 1955?
Well, like I told you, we went on the train with the other Foltas to California and packed our drums. And we stayed at a place in Oakland, California called the Home of Peace.
Right.
That took care of outgoing missionaries.
Yeah, yeah.
And they had a hotel building, and a dining room, and a dormitory for you, and carpenters that made crates and crated up your goods.
Wow, 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 wow.
And later years, Grandma and Grandpa Folta worked and served at the Home of Peace. She was the head of the kitchen.
Wow.
And he was the head of the carpenters.
Wow.
So, but when we were there, we got, I remember the wood they used, they were quite proud of it. They called it Douglas fir. And after we got all our stuff landed at our home in Gwangju, we used that lumber to build things.
Yeah.
We built a sideboard.
Wow.
And I don't know what
Cedar chest?
we built out of it. Yeah, cedar chest, that's right. And I remember we had them, well, I guess the Koreans made those latticed door for the sideboard, and they probably made it out of Korean wood. I don't know what else we made out of that lumber, but we put it to good use.
I think you made a seesaw for us kids.
Okay, we probably, I think we made...
I don't know if that was the same lumber, but...
A chest of drawers.
Okay, so you had a long train trip, but you were with your husband's parents who were going to Alaska on the same train from the East Coast to the West Coast. And then they took another train up to Alaska, I guess. And you stayed at the Home of Peace, which I remember going as a teenager. That was always where the missionaries go. And then you would get on once they packaged your stuff. How did you get all your goods there? Did you send it by truck? And then they packaged it up in crates at the Home of Peace.
We did all our shopping in California.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we didn't take it from the East Coast.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
No.
Okay, so then you had to be ready by the time the boat was leaving. Or were there plenty of boats?
Of course.
Okay. So you had to be ready at your departure on that boat, what was it called?
The Pacific Bear.
It was a cargo ship?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
And it had 4 staterooms, 2 of which were occupied by missionaries. 3 were occupied by missionaries. The other missionaries going with us were the Hoffmans.
Yeah.
And the 3rd missionaries were the Fishes.
Oh.
Mr. and Mrs. Fish with the Heifer Project. And they were going to Japan.
Oh.
And they were taking heifer with them on...
Cows?
Yes, pregnant cows.
How many?
I can't remember how many. I think it was 6 or under.
Okay.
They were in stalls on deck, outdoors, not down in this hold.
Oh, good.
But, that trip was not without its incidents because we had rocky seas. And that made us seasick. But it also made the cows seasick.
Oh, dear.
So the fishes had sick cows on their hands.
Oh, they didn't die, though.
No, they took care of the cows.
Oh.
And we had Bible studies together with them. We studied Hebrews. The fishes were lovely people, and the Hoffmans. And we had church on Sundays. It took us a month to cross the ocean.
A month.
Yeah, so we had
Wow.
probably 4 Sundays.
Wow.
The captain hated Koreans. He called them very nasty words. He was
Too bad.
familiar with them on the docks where the longshoremen would unload things, and I guess they were steal things, or I don't know why he hated Koreans, but he thought we were crazy for being missionaries to those simian substitutes.
Oh, what? What do you call them?
We ate with the captain,
Uh-huh.
and we got to know him well, and we ate very well. It was a great trip.
What's a simian
But
substitute?
I don't think we better look it up online.
Oh,
But
okay. That's what he called them.
the other guys all got seasick except me,
Oh,
because I was armed with something to make sure I didn't get sick so that I would be able to continue to breastfeed.
oh, good. You had medicine.
So I was on Bonamine.
Oh,
Bonamine, I'll never forget the name because it saved our lives. So I was able to nurse you. But then Hoffman's had a bottle baby,
oh.
so they didn't need to worry about getting seasick. I guess I didn't take the medicine.
Did they get sick?
I don't remember how
But
badly.
they had a baby the same age as me.
The same,
Mark Hoffman. I went to school, grew up with him. Yeah, in Korea.
We were friends all our lives.
Yeah.
We had ups and downs, but we were always friends. And we were friends all through into retirement.
Yeah.
Because they lived in Maryville, Tennessee.
Yeah. That's where you went to college.
Right.
And you retired there.
But Bob
Yeah.
was gone by the time we retired. But we
Yeah.
stayed friends with Marilyn. I was with her up until she died.
Wow.
We
Yep.
had a lot of difficulties. It was an up and down friendship. But we always stayed friends.
You were both Yankees with the Southerners.
We were both Yankees. We went with the Southerners.
Yeah, and you were a little younger than the missionaries who were already there. They had been there, what, 10 years? 5 years?
Well, no. They were a little older than us.
Yeah.
Some of them had been evacuated from the war
Yeah.
and went back.
Which war? The Korean War?
Korean War.
Yeah, yeah. That's why Mary Page was born in Japan, I think.
That's true.
And some kids, maybe David Hopper, were born in Japan because they were in Korea as missionaries and they were evacuated, but they
temporarily
only went to Japan. They didn't go back to America until the war was over. So that was right after the Korean War is when you went. Yeah.
Right after the Korean War.
Yeah.
And so when we got to Korea, there was a lot of destruction from the war. The trees had been all cut down off the mountains, a lot of them, and a lot of widows.
Orphans.
Husbands had been killed. But the church was strong. And the church people in the north had fled to the south. So they came down there and established their churches. In Seoul especially, and that made the church really grew rapidly over those years.
Okay, well, there had been some missionaries in North Korea, and you're saying those Christians, how did they know? Maybe God told them to come south, because after the war, they were cut off. They couldn't
You have
leave.
stories.
Yeah.
I think Paul has the books. Your brother Paul has the books of the stories of the missionaries that helped them. Underwoods and Kinslers and
Helped who?
the Korean Christians.
But did they know that they might get cut off from the south, so they came down from the north? They escaped North Korea.
Any way they could.
So they knew that would be bad to stay in North Korea. I don't know why. How did they know? Because after the war, you couldn't cross that line anymore from north to south.
Yeah, they had to go around. by ocean.
Or they couldn't come. Yeah, but let's back up. When you landed in Korea, was there any other stories on the boat? You had good...
Well, we had you in a cute little crib that we could take out on the deck in the sun. It was a screened crib. Mm-hmm. It looked like a playpen, only it was much smaller.
I remember it because my brothers were in it. Yeah.
You did wonderful. People said, "Oh, your baby's going to not know whether it's day or night. She's going to get mixed up. You're going to cross all those time zones. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do?" Well, you didn't care.
I didn't
Time
care.
zones didn't bother you one bit. You
not
just slept through it all.
Yeah.
You were how many months? 5 months?
Was I? I don't remember.
It was November when we landed, so...
Oh, I was born in May, so June, July, August, September, October, November. 6 months. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good age. Mm-hmm. And then tell real quickly about how I almost got dropped in the ocean.
Oh. Well, when we got to Korea, we first... the ship had to unload on the East Coast. And so we got off and walked around a little bit and took some pictures of things like honey buckets and things that we didn't even know what they were.
Wow.
But we'd get back on the boat and go around the tip of Korea into the Yellow Sea.
Why did it come? That was what it came first, was the East Coast.
Yeah, and then we had to go around over to Incheon on the West Coast to get off the ship. And so when you get to Incheon, there is no place to dock. Oh. You have to anchor out in the ocean.
Yeah.
And so we had to be taken off the ship into small boats and taken ashore.
Right.
So that meant we had to go down the gangplank, carry the baby down the gangplank, and hand her to the person on the dinghy. And that's what we did. Yeah. So Daddy had to carry you and hand you over to the men in the little boat.
Yeah.
The little boat was bobbing up and down.
Yeah.
Almost dropped you in the ocean.
Well, is that true? The boat bobbed, and I could have fallen in the ocean.
You could have, but you didn't.
Well, you were just scared. I might.
Just scared.
Oh, but it was fine.
No, you were
He
fine.
caught me. All right, God took care of me, and I'm alive to tell it. Yeah, I always heard that story. I guess that scared you because that was your first baby.
Oh my!
Any baby. Petrie Mitchell helped you maybe in Busan unload some of your... Busan is at the end of Korea. It's a peninsula. And unload maybe some of your freight.
No, Busan is up a little up the coast.
Oh.
Mokpo's at the bottom.
Oh, Mokpo's at the bottom. So.
But anyway...
But then from Incheon you went straight to Gwangju.
Yes.
When you got off the boat and...
We went to Gwangju.
And I survived the dinghy. How did you get to Gwangju? You remember? Okay, well, you somehow got to Gwangju. Probably another missionary picked you up. And Gwangju was your home for 5 years. The first 5 years. Were the Hoffmans... They went to Mokpo.
They went to Mokpo.
Right. Okay, so in Gwangju, who were some of the missionaries that were there?
The missionaries in Gwangju were wonderful. They embraced us with open arms. There were the Coddingtons. He was a doctor.
Yep, Herb
and Paige. Mm-hmm. She was a second-generation missionary from China. There were the Browns, Marta, and Tommy.
And my friend Charlotte.
And they had, each of them had big families.
Yeah.
We each had our own house. We each had our own yards. It was a mission compound on the hill that the missionaries had founded long before our day. And then there were the Lintons,
Yeah.
Dwight and Margie. And they had a house down a little farther down the hill
Yeah.
toward town.
Yep.
They had a family. Tommy and I don't know who all.
They all had big
Linda.
families, like 5 or 6 kids each.
Yeah. And
McBride's later?
later.
Okay.
But those three embraced us. We had a wonderful time together. And then we had a house with some, well, there were, I guess when we first got there, it was a couple. A dentist, Dr. Levy, and his wife,
Yeah.
Dr. Levy. I can't remember their first names.
That's okay.
And he would take a chair out in the country and pull teeth.
You mean a dentist chair?
Dentist chair, just a folding chair.
Oh. Okay.
He'd just go on a pulling teeth time.
Okay.
He was like a volunteer. He was just a short-term missionary.
Well, that relieves pain. If you have pain in your tooth, pull it and you're fine. So
I went with him on a couple of trips and held heads.
oh, you mean they wouldn't use anesthesia?
I don't think so.
Oh my! But they were in so much
I don't
pain.
remember.
They were in pain, so they didn't mind.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't
Did they
remember.
get pliers?
I just remember holding your head.
Did they have like pliers or something? Like some instrument to pull it out? Yeah. Okay. So Korea had just recovered from a war, so it was very poor. Right.
Very poor.
But how come you missionaries had mansions?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I guess in the old
Nice.
days that was what they did. And so
Big houses.
so later some of the missionaries that came after us decided it really was terrible to live on a compound. And they would try living downtown. And that worked okay, but more and more we just opened our gates and had more and more Koreans move onto the compound with us.
Okay.
Doctors and
Yeah.
different people,
Well,
Korean people. So it wasn't a gated community.
but it was gated for a long time.
Well, yeah, I guess I don't remember it had a wall or anything, but you had to go through a gate to get in.
On the road was a gate, and a gate person lived there, family. In Chunju too. So those were fun memories of growing up there.
Yeah, I remember being worried about the germs
Yeah.
because it was dirty.
Yeah.
And even the train ride to take you down to Gwangju.
Oh.
I remember worried about the handles on
You mean to Chunju? You were in Gwangju.
to Gwangju.
You were in Gwangju 5 years, and then you went to Chunju.
Right.
But we'd go back to Gwangju to go to the dentist.
Yeah, well, in Gwangju, we had another baby,
Paul. Yeah.
and another baby.
Johnny.
And those the three of you
Yeah.
would have known Gwangju.
Yeah.
Paul was a baby there, and he had diaper rash
Oh, dear.
badly.
Oh dear.
Johnny had amoebic dysentery
Oh, no.
badly,
Oh.
which the drug program from American churches were gathering up sample drugs to send to Korea. And they sent all kinds of sample drugs to the mission hospitals.
Right.
And one of those was specific for infant amoebic dysentery.
Hallelujah.
And it saved Johnny's life.
Wow. He got it bad, huh? Had it bad.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then we had the McBrides came.
Yeah. Because I remember Huey.
That was Gwangju, wasn't it?
Gwangju. Yeah, I remember Huey.
And other people that came were the Simpsons from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
The Australian Presbyterians were sending missionaries to. We worked together with the Northern and Southern Presbyterians of America and the Australians, the three.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
I don't know who else, but we had other. It was quite a large mission compound. We
Yeah.
had a chapel, and under the
Yeah.
chapel was a schoolroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But my children were too little to
Yeah.
go to school.
Yeah. Right. I remember that chapel, and I remember you practicing with the piano between, not on Sunday, and you would practice your singing because you like to sing, because you and Dad both love to sing duets. And I remember you practicing me, may, me, may, me. Remember that? It's a
Vocalizing.
childhood memory.
You remember?
Yes,
that?
I remember that.
I don't
Me,
even-
me, dun, dun.
Yeah.
Me, may. I have it memorized.
Oh, I've forgotten it myself.
And I remember some of those paths and playing with the Linton kids and going up to the Browns and the Coddingtons. And the Coddingtons had like a goat that would go in their house. And and zip lines. And I remember our house had a pecan tree. And there were walnut trees with big hairy walnuts, you know.
We had a big strawberry patch. Do you remember that?
Yeah, well, no, yeah.
Huge strawberry
That was
patch.
one of my first words I learned in Korean was dalgi,
Dalgi.
strawberries.
Uh-huh.
And we had a lot of little Korean boys that would play with us and make daisy chain watches.
Oh.
And we'd get the pecan trees. We would crack open the pecans. Yeah, a lot of good memories. You had to wash diapers, cloth diapers,
We did.
with the old-fashioned machine that would squeeze out the water. First wash it, and then rinse it, and then squeeze out the water.
Wringer.
A wringer.
Uh-huh.
And I remember you guys would make jam on tables. You would get the dalgi strawberries.
You remember that?
Yeah, and you would make strawberry jam on these tables outside. Yeah.
You put the strawberries, I forget how you did it. I don't think you brought them to a boil.
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe. You put them in flat pans.
Yeah,
With sugar.
Yeah.
Like half and half strawberry, half sugar.
right.
I don't think there was any water to it.
Yeah.
And you put a plate, a piece of glass over it,
Glass.
so the ants couldn't get to
Because they
it.
didn't have plastic. They didn't have saran wrap.
No, we put glass.
Yeah.
And put them out in the sun
Mm-hmm.
on card tables.
Mm-hmm.
And under the card table leg was a tin can of water
Oh,
so that the ants couldn't crawl up and get into it.
smart.
I would leave it out all day
Yeah.
in the hot sun for
Yeah.
several days,
Yeah.
and it became jam.
Wonderful.
And the Koreans would come to eat at our house, and if we didn't serve jam, they'd ask for it.
Oh, what about the jam? And the men would go hunting and shoot pheasant, deer, rabbit. You had good. That's how you got meat. Otherwise, you couldn't buy meat.
I'm trying to think.
Okay.
Maybe you wouldn't have known the people that worked for us in Gwangju.
I remember Ajamani, who took care of Paul. She would put Paul on her back and wrap around a
Oh, that's
D.
right.
D, right, to hold him.
That's right. We had a girl that worked in the kitchen, Sunja.
No, I don't remember her that well. I remember the Ajamani, the babysitter.
And Ajamani Abad Paul.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you call it Abba.
And she particularly loved him because she lost her own child
Oh,
in some kind of a,
oh,
I forget what kind of an accident.
oh my goodness.
So she bonded with Paul.
Was the
in a
baby,
special way.
her baby, small when he died?
A young boy, I think.
Dear. I remember Paul sitting in a laundry basket. They had a lot of baskets in Korea. And his name was Pouty in Korean. And a basket's called a pagudi. So we'd call him Pouty Pagudi. And he would rock in the basket.
Right.
I remember that. And we had a hobby horse. Did they make it? The carpenter
I guess so.
made it, made a hobby horse, painted it red like a horse, and had springs.
4 springs.
And we would rock on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paul would fall asleep on it.
Yeah, we played and played and played.
Well, I guess we had the carpenter make it.
I guess. You
Paint
could
it
buy
red.
it. Yeah. You must have had pictures and they could copy it. Yeah.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
We could give them a picture and they could make it.
Mm-hmm. I remember big snakes. I was little, but it was like big snakes across the road. It seemed like they were real big. Pem, snake. Scary. It scared me.
I don't remember that.
I remember that. Yeah. What other memories? We would go to movies at the army base. Remember that?
From Gwangju?
Yeah, Gwangju. Yeah, we'd all go in the what were those cars called?
Land Rover.
I know, but they had a certain one, Isuzu or something, Japanese car, like Isuzu, like a bus. All the kids would go see Pinocchio, and Jenny went one time and she cried because she was so scary.
Well, that would have been Chunju.
That would have been Chunju, but yeah. We loved going to movies at the army base. We had no TV. We had movies at the army base.
Oh. There was no such thing as TV.
No. Yeah.
There wasn't a TV until one of our furloughs. We had to make a decision whether to take a TV back with us or not.
Oh.
And I remember you children voting on it. And you didn't want to.
Really?
Because you were afraid it would take away from your, what did you have? Tree house? Not tree house. You had little clubhouses.
Forts.
Fort houses.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't.
No, maybe you thought that as the mom. I remember we did bring a TV.
But we ended up taking it.
Yeah.
And it was small enough to fit in
it was like this big,
gallon.
black and white. And all you could get was Mission Impossible in Korean, dubbed in Korean. That's all. So it was like, oh well.
I don't remember.
Wasn't that interesting? Yeah. We would we'd make forts.
Forts, that's
forts
right.
And
forts.
tire swings. We'd swing and we'd go all over the compound with bikes, and we would make little fairy houses in the old pine. Remember? That was Chunju. When I was 5, we moved to Chunju, and we had the old pine tree, and we played and played and played and played. But in Gwangju, we would make little houses with the mud and moss, and with Julie and Mary Page, and we would have little fires and cook doughboys, have campouts. And the boys would, they got motorbikes and would go all over the place.
I'm surprised you remember that much under the age of 5.
I remember a lot. Marjorie doll.
You did?
You made a big doll for me.
I did.
But I liked Pongnami better. I had another doll I named Pongnami. And I really loved Pongnami.
What did it look like?
I don't know, but I loved Pongnami. And I remember waiting with Pongnami for Dad to pack the trailer so we could go to the beach. Every summer we went to the beach. That was a highlight. And we would drive our Land Rover. Finally, he would finish packing. Maybe by the next day, I had to wait, and I never did learn patience. Maybe that's why I'm impatient, because it was like, took forever. He would get interruptions with Koreans, people, I guess. And anyway, I was waiting with Pongnami. I remember that. Yeah. And finally, we would get in the Land Rover and go, and we had to take a ferry with no sides, remember? And it was so exciting. And then the car would get right on the ferry, the Land Rover. We'd get to the beach, and that was the best memory ever.
I know.
We
That
built
was wonderful.
We built a beach house with the Browns,
Right.
the Pupo Palace.
Mm-hmm.
Po is Folta, Poo is Brown.
Pooh and Po.
The only problem is I never saw Charlotte at the beach because we shared that house. We hadn't taken turns.
You were never there at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah. But Charlotte was my good friend.
So we built that house while we still lived in Gwangju.
Yeah.
And you still remember that, going there under the age of 5?
I remember waiting for Dad to pack the trailer.
But you don't
I have
remember
a lot of Gwangju memories.
Gwangju memories.
Under the age of 5. And I loved Mary Page. She was 2 years older than me.
Even then.
And Charlotte, Mary Page, and I, we have a picture. We met in the strawberry patch of Gwangju. Wow. we were age 3, 4, and 5.
Oh.
Or Charlotte and I were 3 and MP was 5.
I can't imagine her remembering all that.
Oh, and I met Jenny in that Gwangju house. I remember that Gwangju house. And I met Jenny. We were 5 and we took turns being the mommy or the baby.
Jenny wasn't in Gwangju.
No, but I met her there. They came. People came and visited the hospital, I guess. And I met Jenny. Remembers too. We both remember. We took turns. I'll be the mommy. We both wanted to be the baby, so we had to take turns. We still remember.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. And I remember we had 2 cribs. Paul and I had a crib. And I remember jumping in the crib. He would jump in his, I would jump in mine. And then we got a spoon and we'd try to gag with the spoon. Remember that? And I remember you made us take a nap and we couldn't sleep. And we'd pretend we were sleeping just to get it over with. And then there was a picture of little boy Blue on the crib.
Yeah.
With a cow. And that scared me.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of good memories. Oh, another good memory. In the Coddington's house. David Coddington was my mommy. He was my first boyfriend, maybe. No, he says I was the first girl he kissed, but he was like 4 and I was 2. Or 3, and he was 5 or something. Maybe he's 1 year older than me. And he was the mom. We had a little cubby hole on their stairway. There's a little cubby hole where you could just storage area. We would go in there and he got a real glass baby bottle and would hold and feed me with a glass, and I was so honored, with water in it, just water. And he was my mom. Very good memories.
Now, where was that?
Gwangju. And I remember we had big cardboard boxes that we had packed in, and we would use them to play in and draw things on them.
You remember more about Gwangju than I do.
I remember sitting in the monkey climbing tree at the Lintons, and everybody got one cookie, and they ate theirs real fast, but I didn't eat mine. I kept mine, and I was so proud of myself. Because then they were all finished their cookie and I still had mine. I remember that.
My goodness, you remember a lot. I don't remember any of those things
They were
when I was that
wonderful memories. And the
so
beach
good.
was the best memory. That was the best memory. The beach. All these kids and plays.
Just to think that we had gone to the beach when we just had 3 children.
Mhm.
And of course, we went many years after that when we went to Jeonju.
Yeah.
But I don't remember going to the beach from Gwangju.
Maybe
I guess that was just a different road.
Maybe we stayed in the lodge. Well, did we ever stay in the lodge?
We built the house with the Browns, and that
Yeah.
would have been Gwangju days.
Yeah. But the beach was wonderful. Here's Mom's new house. And there's Mom. And I'm going to interview her in front of her new house that she lives here with Nancy and Paul Hannon. And there she is, ready to share some memories of hollyhocks. And here we are, and we're going to talk about Jeonju. And you were missionaries in Korea for 40 years, from 1955 until 1995, 40 years. So, we talked about your marriage, your becoming missionaries to Korea, your trip to Korea, your first 5 years in Gwangju. Maybe we left out a few things, but we'll fill them in as we go. So now we moved after the first 5 years. I was 5 years old, I think, or 6, and we moved to Jeonju.
Right.
Okay. So what was your first impression did you want to move to Jeonju or not really? You were happy in Gwangju with Aunt Martia and Aunt Paige, all those nice people. But then they said you have to move to Jeonju. Why did they tell you that?
Well, it had to do with the evangelization of the counties surrounding who was needed where, which ordained missionaries were needed in which part of the country.
So who decides that? The mission board?
The mission. At that time, we were a mission. Later, we dissolved as a mission and just became part of the Korean church.
Oh, okay. So the mission told you to go to Jeonju, and I remember there was some riots or something. Was that when you moved or before?
No, that was later.
Later. So you moved to Jeonju, and how did you feel about Jeonju?
Oh, it was fine. It was a bigger place and more families. Yeah, it was fine. I loved it.
And we lived in that low house. We had a tire swing. We could see the mountains.
Really?
And the seals lived up on the hill, and the hoppers, and the Hoffmans that you had. Oh, you were good friends with the Hoffmans from the ship coming over.
Right.
Yeah. And then the Kellers and the Cranes. So we had a lot of friends.
Right.
Us kids had a lot of friends.
And the Hoppers were the closest to us. And Mrs. Hopper, Dot Hopper, was my prayer partner.
Yeah.
For years and years.
Years and years. How many years do you think you were prayer partners?
Oh, probably 35. 30,
Yeah.
35.
The whole time.
Yeah, we prayed for each other's families as well as our mission work.
Yeah, yeah.
So I felt close to her children.
Yeah, and I was friends with Margaret Hopper, my age. There were 5 girls my age.
Right.
God gave me at least 5
Isn't that wonderful?
girls my age.
Yeah.
Margaret, Jenny on that compound. Margaret and Jenny and Mark Hoffman,
Uh-huh.
the only boy
And
in it.
then there were some children in the nearby
Janet, Tish.
Janet, Tish.
And Tish was my best friend. She was 2 years older.
Uh-huh.
I always liked a little bit older than me.
You and that you did acted out C.S. Lewis things. In our attic.
Yeah. So, Chunju, Aunt Dot was your prayer partner, and I played with Margaret and Janet and Tish and.
Yeah, but you know, I had a prayer partner back in Gwangju too.
Oh,
That was Miss Root.
she was your prayer partner.
And that was when some riots took place.
Oh, in Gwangju.
Yeah, we had a lot of prayer about that.
What happened?
I wouldn't want to leave that out, but I can't remember the details.
Okay, there was some rioting of the Koreans. They were mad at the government. You don't know. You don't know.
I forget what it was all
Okay.
about anymore.
All right. But Aunt Miss Root survived the Japanese takeover in the war. Everyone fled to Japan or evacuated, but she did not. Except her. She was a single missionary.
The Koreans carried her on a chige up into the mountains to hide.
Wow.
At the risk of their lives, I guess.
My goodness.
And then when she finally retired, she passed away in her late 90s as well.
So where did they hide her? Up in Chidi-san? No.
Some other, I don't know, some.
Oh, it's up on maybe Murung-san. San means mountain.
Could be.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And I wonder where, how did they hide her?
I don't know.
Anyway, okay, moving on to Chunju. We had a blast living in both Gwangju and Chunju. We had so many friends running around the hills, going to each other's houses for snacks, popsicles. The Hoffmans had popsicles.
What about school?
Who cares about school? Oh yeah, where did we have school? I remember we did a few classes up in the Seals house, and then we went to that big house. Who lived there? That big house where the Wilsons
It
lived.
was an empty house.
Oh, it was empty.
It was empty, so we used it as a school.
Ah, big old house.
And I remember I taught spelling to you and Mark and the children.
But that was when we built a little schoolhouse. I remember
Yes.
we built a little schoolhouse
The army men came over and built it for us.
of cinder blocks or something. Nice.
They built you desks,
Nice.
real nice desks, chairs. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
a 3-room schoolhouse
Yeah.
with a little lavatory.
Mm-hmm.
And upstairs was an open 1-room place where we could have church.
Yeah.
And plays and things.
Yeah. We had church. Yeah, we did the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe up there.
Did you?
Play. But we had church every Sunday afternoon at 4:00
Uh-huh.
because so that you could go to Korean church in the morning, but we never did.
Right. And the church, you could walk out the church and maybe up a few steps to the tennis court.
Right. And that's where you missionaries had picnics. Remember that? Potlucks.
And then we moved to the house that was right next door to the tennis
Yeah, the
court.
Hoffmans' house. They moved to Seoul, and we moved into their house. It was bigger. because you ended up having 6 kids.
Yeah.
And so the schoolhouse, I remember that bad incident where I cheated on a spelling test. Do you remember that?
No.
Oh, I do. We had Velveeta cheese boxes for our pencils.
Oh.
And I would use my pencils to scratch my ears because my ears itched. And I would write my spelling words on the Velveeta cheese box.
Oh.
And you caught me. You were the mean teacher. I never did like mean teachers. And you caught me. That was bad. And you sent me home. I walked home with my head hanging down into my heart. I was so ashamed.
Oh. Do you remember the word that you were cheated on?
No, that didn't matter.
I still remember.
That was bad. I did a bad thing.
I still remember 2nd grade when I had spelling and missed a word. I used to know what the word was for a long time, but I remember they made me write it 25 times on the blackboard.
Oh. I remember another bad thing. I had to go to the bathroom, and I went to the Hoffman's house because it was the closest to the school or the playground. We played on the tennis court with the monkey bars. And so I ran to the Hoffman's house, and they wouldn't come to the door. So I just peed in my tights, my red tights.
Red?
I remember that. And I walked home, and I was just so
embarrassed
and sad. Yeah.
We did have a little bathroom in the schoolhouse.
I don't know what happened. Maybe the school was locked. Anyway, those are the bad things.
All the comforts of home, though. I remember that little bathroom. Someone even rigged it up with something on the pipe that would heat water.
In the school?
So, in the school building.
Okay.
So you could get hot water and cold water.
Wow, yeah.
We really had all the comforts of home.
We had church there, and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which Tish and I wrote the play. I was Lucy.
I wonder where it is.
I don't know. You probably threw it away.
Oh, no. You were Lucy?
I was Lucy. And I think maybe Jenny was Mrs. Beaver. I don't know. I don't remember. Johnny Seal was Edmund.
And then you had a Korean teacher that taught you dances.
Oh, yeah.
And things.
Dancing and drums. Yeah, we had fun.
Wow.
Yeah, and what else?
Did they teach you Korean too?
They probably tried, yeah.
Tried?
Yeah.
Well, you learned a lot of Korean.
Yeah, we had, we were American kids, but we picked it up pretty fast. I already picked it up in Gwangju,
Well, then you had a time when you went on television.
Oh, yeah, that was later. I was in college when I came.
Oh, it was?
Visit. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
But
I think
you used your Korean language that
little 조금만.
조금만.
Yeah.
Yes.
우리 한국말 할까? 합시다. 한국말 잊어버렸어요?
다 잊어버렸어요.
아니요. 다 알아요.
조금밖에 다.
많이 알아요. 여기 속에 있어요. 한국말. I said, what?
Do you have any Korean friends now?
I was just explaining that I said we forget most of the Korean, but a lot of it's inside here. So
Yes.
I don't have any Korean friends now. I had some in Abu Dhabi, and I wish I had some. It's fun, fun to have them.
I wish I had some.
Yeah.
There's big Korean churches here in Knoxville.
Oh,
Paul was in contact with them, but we've lost touch.
yeah. My friend Dawn goes to a Korean church and gets good Korean food.
That's wonderful.
And good friends. They're very loyal, friendly. They love former missionaries. So they're
Well, your friend Dawn, you didn't know her growing up as well
not that well.
as you do now.
No, she was at KCA for 2 years. But anyway, Chunju. Paul had a slingshot, and Paul and Dudley shot all the lights out on the compound.
Oh,
Remember
my
that?
goodness.
And then they had to earn money and pay for it, I think. Hopefully. And we had, I'm just thinking about the memories. We had a tire swing.
I don't remember a tire swing.
Oh, yeah. When we moved from the Hoffman house. Oh, we were first in the little house, the low house, and we had stilts. And
stilts.
We made clay sculptures. We had tire swing there. Later, we moved to the big house, remember? And you had more kids. You had Nancy, maybe. The last kid.
Yeah.
In the big house. Yeah. I don't know if you had Sammy at that time. But, so we had a blast. In the summer, we would every summer, go to Techon Beach for at least a month. And you and Dad were in the plays. The missionaries would put on plays. Let's see.
Collected shells.
Fiddler on the Roof. What were some of the plays?
Oh, plays.
The Music Man. Mikado. Or what was it? That one? You were Yum Yum. Remember?
I do.
We had vacation. Bible schools. We had star classes. We had swimming classes. We had lifeguards. We had motorboats. We missionaries suffered.
We suffered terrible.
Oh my goodness. There were typhoons. It was so exciting. Hurricanes.
And that beach itself was so idyllic.
Yeah.
I mean, the way the tide went way, 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 way out.
A mile out.
Way,
Or half mile maybe.
I don't know, but it was
Yeah.
sandy, white, clean, sandy.
Yeah.
And the shells would just be on the
Oh, these shells.
Uh-huh.
Variety of shells.
And when the tide did come in, it wasn't high waves. It was wonderful for swimming.
Perfect.
It's just perfect.
Perfect.
And then we
Yeah.
had the flat sand, and then we had the rocks that we
Yeah.
could climb on, and
With
look
all the
for
little
shells,
animals
and
in the
animals
rocks.
in the rocks.
And the starfish.
Yeah,
Blue
right,
and orange starfish.
Right.
And the rivulets, when the tide went out, there's all these rivulets, and we made castles, and
Yes.
drip castles.
Oh, wonderful sand castles.
Yeah.
And then up above those rocks, we could walk up there on the hillside
Yeah.
to an amphitheater where we
Of
could
sorts.
sit on the side of the hill, look out over the water, and the preacher would stand in front of the water. You'd see the preacher here and the water behind him, the Korean beach in the distance,
And the sunset
and the sun set.
at the same
And then
time.
out on the water was, you could see the reef where the water was hitting the reef.
Yeah.
And then beyond that was the monster
Yeah.
against the sky.
Yeah. We'd have reef swims and monster swims.
Oh.
It was an island that looked like a monster.
And then around the back of that hill was what we call the back bay.
Yeah.
And that was even more quiet and
Exciting.
beautiful, quiet.
We could climb all the way around the rocks to the back bay.
Back bay, and you could get different shells over there.
Yeah. And one time I remember the Dawson boys came or something like that. And we went there at night, and there was eels that glowed
Oh,
in the sand.
in the back
Glowing green in the back bay. I remember that. And we could walk from the back bay around back to our house, or you could go around the rocks, which was dangerous and exciting because if the tide came in, you'd be stuck.
Oh,
Remember that?
not really.
As a kid, we would be a little worried about that, you know.
Oh, if you went around, yeah.
Yeah, if the tide came up, you couldn't get back. But then you could walk back.
Well, yes, you could walk back through kind of a marshy place
Yeah.
under the
Yeah. There's a path.
hill. And then up that hill was a path that went to some more missionary
Yeah.
cabins, where the Seals house was up there.
The Coddingtons, the Seals on the way up. They had Cheenies in their house. Those 1,000-leggers. Yeah. I remember that.
Remember Genies?
Genies, yeah.
Oh,
Little 1,000-leggers.
those were about that long.
Black. Would they bite?
I think you could get Genie bites.
Okay.
They were poisonous.
Oh, dear.
Some kind of poisonous.
Yeah.
We had a dried Genie for a long time. I used to keep it put on a display.
A dried one. Oh.
Dried one.
We collected so many pretty shells.
What?
So many pretty shells.
Oh, yeah.
And those round shells with the hole in the middle.
Yeah.
Not sand dollar.
Yeah.
No. Maybe they're called
urchins.
sea urchins.
Sea urchins.
Oh. And we'd string them up,
Make a string.
big to little.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
In our nice cottage, the whole sides would open up
Mm-hmm.
and have a stick to hold them up this way or this way.
Right.
And the air, that was our air conditioning. And when you sleep in the cottage, you could hear the ocean waves.
Mhm.
We were the second row. And I always wondered, why didn't we build on the first row? But you told me because the first row had the ocean view, but we were just one house back. But you said, well, this is safer to be one row back because of hurricanes and typhoons. But the first row never got hurt. But so I always had nightmares of a tsunami.
No, but they did have trouble with remember they built a seawall.
Yeah. They were a little nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were fine all those years. We had a 100-year lease, 99-year lease on the land.
I guess it ran out.
Yeah, it ran out. And then they kept, the lodge where we'd have church and plays.
Hey,
and
you
things.
went back and saw it a few years ago.
Yeah, so they kept part of it. It has a gate around it now.
The lodge is still there?
Yeah, and the gate man, I said, I'm Paul Moksanyam's daughter. And he said, oh, I remember Paul Moksanyam. He was a little boy. He remembered Dad.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
The Koreans would come to the entrance with their vegetable market. And we could go and buy vegetables, I guess, every morning.
Yeah, and the iceman, before we had refrigerators, the iceman would come with ice on his bicycle.
Really?
And that's how our refrigerator, I remember that. And we did not have electricity at first.
No.
And Dad would pump up a lantern and we'd all watch.
Oh, yeah. It was kind of dangerous. I was always scared of it.
Oh, maybe we felt scared because you were scared.
Did we get electricity?
We finally got electricity. And flushing toilet was the rain filled a thing up here, and you pull the string and the water comes down. Or the sink drips into a bucket, and you use that to flush your toilet. Remember that?
I don't know.
Then they improved that later, I think. Yeah. And then the Ajumanis had their own little room.
Oh, yes.
Which they had to sleep on the floor because they liked that. And it was a raised platform. They slept on the floor. And
Nice wooden
I
floor.
think they enjoyed coming, I think.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Did they? They were scared of the army men who were black. They were not used to that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember that.
They had their own worship service.
They'd say, Muswa. They did. Oh.
We usually took two with us.
Two
Girls.
Two Ajumanis.
And they shared.
And they would squat and cook in the backyard, their own Korean food.
Oh, in the backyard?
Koreans have to have Korean food.
I don't remember that, did I?
I think so, yeah. They made their own food. Sometimes they probably used our kitchen. And remember, our table would fold. It was like part of the wall, and it would fold down.
Right.
But maybe we ate outside on card tables.
No, I think we ate at that table right within reach of the kitchen.
Yeah, but now and then I remember the card table outside. Because I remember Dad, we were teenagers, and Dad had a stick. And if we did anything, he'd go, shh. What? But he was just kidding, But I remember that.
Well, the whole house was windows.
Yeah, the whole...
Each 3-foot section could be open.
Yeah.
You could raise the wall,
Yeah.
prop a stick under it,
Yeah.
and it became a window
And
with
yeah.
screen, of course.
And the
no
air,
glass.
The wind could come through the whole
The breeze
house.
could come through.
And there was a little box with a hook
A little box at the
at
bottom.
the bottom with screens.
So you could push the.
You open it
You
and
could-
push a stick out to hold the shutter up.
So the shutter wouldn't have to go all the way up,
Right, right.
but it could come down depending on the weather, how much.
Depending on how short your stick
how
was.
short or long the stick
A
was.
long stick would hold it all the way up, yeah, depending on the weather.
Mhm.
That was our air conditioning control system.
We had luxury.
Oh my goodness, there was a bed in the living room,
Oh,
fireplace. Did we ever use that fireplace?
And then we put a addition on to the.
That was the living room.
Yeah. At first we
Oh.
didn't have the
Did-
addition.
oh.
We just had the
Oh.
15 by 15 by 15.
Oh, a box.
Yeah. And then we put a room
Oh, okay.
with windows and glass in
Real
the
windows. Oh.
on two sides and a fireplace at the end
Did we ever use
and a
the?
bed within there.
Yeah. Did we ever use that fireplace?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh yeah. In fact, we would go there in the fall sometimes when it was
Oh.
and use it to heat
Oh.
to stay warm.
I don't remember going in the fall. That's a long trip there. Took all day. Are you sure we went in the fall?
I don't know why we did that, because we ended up, with the.
Maybe later you did that when I was
I don't know.
away at a boarding school.
But I think we used the fireplace sometime.
Yeah, and we had hammocks from the army men
Outdoors.
outdoors between two
Between
trees.
two trees.
There were lots of trees,
Mhm.
pine trees, swaying in the
And my
wind.
parents came
Oh
to
yeah,
visit
yeah,
in 1964.
right.
How old you would have been then, I don't know.
11, I think. 10, 9, I don't know, something like that. 9, maybe.
Yeah. Now, we had a party under those trees for Mother and Daddy.
You did. Oh,
They came during, they were there for, I think they visited us for 6 weeks in Korea. And we took them to the beach for part of that time. And during the beach time, we had our annual mission conference,
okay.
or Bible conference, whatever we called it.
Yeah.
And the Keplers came as the speaker that year. They
Okay.
were Mother and Daddy's best friends from Milford.
They came from America?
They came from,
Wow.
let's see, did they go back? I think did they go to Japan for a
They were
while?
probably on a little trip.
I don't know.
probably.
But anyway, he was the speaker.
Oh.
That was wonderful to
He baptized me.
renew that
think.
friendship.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that name, and and I remember eating watermelon up on the Korean beach point.
Oh.
Eating watermelon up there.
Oh, there was another path that went out from that cliff to some missionaries built their cabins out on a little spit of land.
Korean beach? No.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, John and Marcy would remember that because her parents came to visit us too.
Oh.
And we went out on that spit. Some of our pictures were taken out there.
Oh, yeah. That was with the watermelon, I remember.
Maybe
Eating
so.
Watermelon. Oh, I didn't know
The Van Lurp's cabin was out that way.
it was? No.
They had a big cabin.
They were up on the mountain. Remember the mountain goats and the hillbillies and the sand crabs? Or something like that. But I thought the Van Lurps were up on the hill. At one point, they were up on the hill. Van Lurps. I remember.
But the best thing about the beach, in addition to all those luxurious things that we talked about, was the camaraderie that we had with the other missionaries.
Yeah.
There was no denominational distinctions. We just loved each other so much. It was wonderful. Well, the worship services were wonderful. There were no differences. Even the Seventh Adventists, we had a wonderful time.